I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show. Today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Bill Dafflon, investor in WebX, the first Bitcoin Accumulation Company, BACs, here to talk about corporate Bitcoin strategies, digital asset treasuries, and much more about Bitcoin. Bill, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time.
Ashton, thank you for inviting me. Yeah, very
Yeah,
glad to be here.
excited to dive into Bitcoin corporate strategies, which is becoming ever more important. We've seen a lot of these DATs or digital asset treasuries in the news, but now WebEx has become the first BAC, which is Bitcoin Accumulation Company. I'm excited to dive into the differences and what that really means. I'd love to kick off our conversation with sort of a high level on what is WebEx, what's a BAC, and then we can dive into the details.
Sure. WebX is a Hong Kong listed company by the ticker HK8521. The ticker is very, in Asian culture, the ticker is very interesting. 852 is the Hong Kong area code. One, and so means it literally means Hong Kong number one. So we, as an investor, we found that to be very interesting. So, these guys are culturally sensitive, and how they picked the ticker to be a Bitcoin accumulation company, to be the first Bitcoin accumulation company from Hong Kong. And then, we ask a question, what does it mean to be a Bitcoin accumulation company? Actually, what they, put in very simple words, is a company that is actively accumulating Bitcoin through its own business operations. So through its revenue. So instead of just, raising capital and buy Bitcoin, raising capital and buy Bitcoin, the idea is that to raise capital and increase a certain type of business activity that can return Bitcoin as revenue, and the company do not sell that revenue and put it into treasury, or most of it into treasury, and continue to raise additional funding to fund its main business operation, which is a real business that returns more Bitcoin. So that's kind of a high level of how it works.
Yeah, I think that's really great because we're going back to, before the crypto craze and when people were investing in projects, just hoping for returns. People actually had sensible investment theses back in traditional companies that it has revenue, we're investing in a share of the profits. And it seems like this is a great translation of that into Bitcoin, where, from what I understand, digital asset treasury, at least with MicroStrategy, and these other companies that are popping up, you're just raising capital just to use that capital just to buy Bitcoin, and then sort of raise more to buy Bitcoin. But where's the operations of like traditional business? Where's the revenue coming from? It's just sort of, we'll just keep buying Bitcoin, and as Bitcoin appreciates, we'll raise more to buy more Bitcoin. And there's not really an income generating stream of a traditional business. And there are millions of businesses that have revenue generation streams, and they could be buying Bitcoin. So, and at least there's a real business backing that as well. So is that the main difference, in that this is a traditional company that has income not related to crypto, and we're using that to buy Bitcoin versus just raising capital to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Maybe let's just go back in history a little bit, right? We know that the first DAT was MicroStrategy, and obviously it's also the most successful one, right? But how it became successful? It was a real business. It had a real business, which was a software company, had revenue, and it decided to start accumulating a little bit of Bitcoin, right? At that time, probably the Bitcoin per share was very, very low, and then it accumulated more Bitcoin, and while the real business, actual business was still running. And there was the success has certain historical reason to it, but also certain structural reasons, right? One of the reasons is that people started buying into the story, buying into the vision slowly, step by step. So therefore, building a cost basis that rose, gradually, and as a company continued to execute its vision, right? And most recently, we had a lot of these, what I would say, the second type of DAT companies. So that was the original type. The second type was that I raise a bunch of money and then I do a reverse merger into a SPAC, into a shell. I kind of see a fundamental flaw a fundamental flaw in this, right? It's more like it's almost like everybody put money together to buy a certain token and put that in a
Mm-hmm.
stock.
Mm-hmm.
And the fundamental flaw is that everybody gets a share at the same time. If there is any mNAV or a multiple to the NAV, investors or traders on the open market will dump the share before the pipe investor gets their shares. So it has a tendency to go back to NAV when everybody gets their shares. And then when everybody gets their shares, people are scared, it goes back to NAV. And they may
Mm-hmm.
sell a little bit and it's below NAV and then stays below NAV. So and then afterwards, what's more story? What additional story there is? What additional story are you telling? Well, what's the vision? And it seems to be a lack of that as well. So it's actually not that exciting to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the third variant is the one that we're talking about with 8521, incredibly innovative. And then to your question, it's actually not just to use a random existing business
Mm-hmm.
revenue to buy Bitcoin because that's not very efficient. Think about it. Maybe my business only has uh, a profit margin of 20%. Even
Mm-hmm.
if the profit margin is 50%, then I'm wasting 50% of the capital. I'm not accumulating Bitcoin. But what if there is a company that, what if there is a type of business operation where the efficiency of accumulating Bitcoin is at 100%, which means every dollar I'm signing in, $1 of Bitcoin comes out.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's better than 100%? It's 120%. Every dollar I'm sending in, $1.2 of Bitcoin comes out. Then we have a very interesting thing where um, the traditional DAT is investor invest at an mNAV. So every time I invest, I'm buying Bitcoin at a higher price than on the market. And
Mm-hmm.
here, every time I'm investing, the company is buying Bitcoin for me at a discount or accumulating Bitcoin at a discounted value through business operation. Right?
Wow.
It's also kind of like a magic, but I'll get to that in a little bit. To put it simple, if we think about what is Bitcoin, Bitcoin is really the first sovereign asset backed by computation power, right? By mathematics, by
Mm-hmm.
computing power. And computing power represents the most vast form of productivity. And now we're in the age of AI, and more computing powers are coming. That is really the level of a country or company or even a civilization's strength is the amount of computing it can amass. So why don't we have a company that focus its main business on the operation or the development or the trading, I mean, on the management of computation power, where the revenue is required by any supplier or any counterparty
Mm-hmm.
to be Bitcoin, which is backed by computation power. Therefore, for every dollar you are investing into the business, such as purchasing hash power, for instance, you are returning more than one Bitcoin.
Interesting. Yeah, that's those high margin companies are hard to come by when you have, really high profit margins. At least in traditional brick and mortar, the margins are so low that, it probably wouldn't make sense to accumulate Bitcoin. But if you have 100% or over 100% and you're putting in a dollar to get, $1.2 of Bitcoin, that sounds like a secret formula that's patented for, the KFC chicken or something. So is there something that WebEx can do getting this Bitcoin at a discount that other digital asset treasuries can't do?
Yes, kind of, right? So um, I know there is this, when the market was hot, right? It was going up like this. We have the concept of ATM, which is a great acronym, right? Um, yeah, but the problem is that investors always end up buying at a premium.
Mm-hmm.
What if we have a concept where I'm saying quote unquote, right? Reverse ATM. I'm always buying at a discount. Wouldn't that be better, right? So that is
Mm-hmm.
kind of the idea, and then will become a new flying wheel, right? The flying wheel that I invest, I get Bitcoin discount. I invest, I get Bitcoin discount. And the secret sauce is really, um, for instance, for hash power, right? For hash power to purchase hash power from the source,
Mm-hmm.
from where it is the cheapest, the lowest cost, right? So let's use a comparison for AI, for instance, right? If we were to purchase AI computation power from a supplier, um, who would have the cheapest computation power
Mm-hmm.
would be, and it would be like theoretically NVIDIA, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if NVIDIA had its own servers, it manufactures the chip and it makes the servers, would be the cheapest because it doesn't have to. I mean, it in itself is making 70% margin, right? I don't know if it
Mm-hmm.
is under margin. So somebody has to absorb that cost to build a data center, right? So the idea is to purchase hash power in a strategic partnership with one of the leading Bitcoin ASIC chip manufacturers that are also mining or has excess hash power on its own. So it has lowest cost basis.
Mm-hmm.
And for this very
Mm-hmm.
reason, I think there was a recent announcement by the company, which is now public, that I can talk about, a strategic partnership with one of the affiliates of Whatsminer or MicroBT. Um, Obviously, I was part of the discussion. I was in the discussion. Now it's public. We can talk about it. That
Mm-hmm.
this strategic partnership, I think, is just going to go deeper and bigger and a lot deeper between the two companies in becoming, a major cooperation partnership where MicroBT or Whatsminer, the machine is called Whatsminer, will continue and to support and provide hash rate contracts at discount. I mean, to provide hash rate contracts to the company and be able to deliver Bitcoin. Um, I mean, more than the dollar that's coming in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, very interesting. I'm going to look into those partnerships further. And so, what you're saying the secret sauce instead of just buying Bitcoin OTC or from institutional desks or the crypto exchange is you're actually investing or building partnerships with the mining companies and then helping them take the Bitcoin off their hands through that way, and in that way you're able to get it at a discount.
Yes, on a high level, it is correct. We are also working with Blockware on potential mining, direct mining operations. But knowing that mining um, does have more overhead, a higher return, but also more overhead, and takes longer time to receive the Bitcoins while you have to actually
Mm-hmm.
mine them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but the return is better. So I think WebX, at least what I understand, is strategy would be multi-fold, not just hash rate purchase. Will be hash rate purchase as a direct and swift way to acquire Bitcoin at discount. Potentially, um, well, we can only speculate, direct mining,
Mm-hmm.
as well as AI or cloud services, where the counterparties also pays in Bitcoin for the service back.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a brokerage of uh, computation power, brokerage of AI computation power, or the brokerage fee, which is low cap, or you don't have capex, is back in Bitcoin, as well as maybe asset management of Bitcoin. So the idea is that anything that does not require direct heavy operation or capital expenditure, where the operation directly returns Bitcoin at close to 100% going in or more than 100% going in, would be the kind of activities that I think the company should and would pursue.
Mm. It's really cool, Bill. And earlier on, you mentioned when you were talking about MicroStrategy, the mNAV and NAV. Could you
Mhm.
explain that a little bit further in what does the NAV number mean? And if somebody was, for example, a traditional stock investor, they looked at MicroStrategy or another DAT and they saw the NAV number and then looking at WebEx, what should they be looking for in having the best value and where to invest?
Yeah, I think you got to look slightly differently between WebX and the mature DAT or the DAT that is done through the reverse merger, right? So if you look at the MicroStrategy, the NAV initially was probably not very good. there's many multiples of NAV. So NAV basically means net asset value. But here we say net asset, which are only talking about Bitcoin. So net value of Bitcoin assets on balance sheet, right? And compared to the market cap of the company. Obviously, when MicroStrategy first started, let's say accumulated the first Bitcoin, first 10 Bitcoin, first 100 Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin value was much lower than the market cap. Therefore, the multiple was much higher, right? Over time, as it accumulated more and more, the asset value caught up to market cap. And market cap, like for the most part, stayed ahead of the underlying asset value. And for most of the other reverse merger DATs, either Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, they were generally done with 1x NAV when the sponsor raises capital, right? So basically, it's a 1x asset to the price of the shares for the private placement. And the idea is that investors are hoping more people on the open market will purchase the stock, causing the stock to go higher than its net asset value, which we have seen so far as a lot of fluctuation. And eventually, in most cases, in many of the cases, when investor actually gets the shares, the price is tucked below NAV. So for WebEx, it's slightly different of a situation. Right now, it's almost like it is the next. I mean, it's an Asia version of MicroStrategy. It just purchased its first Bitcoin just to signal, okay, they're doing Bitcoin strategy, the bought one, and the next one will not come from purchase. The next one will come from operation through computation operation, right? And so what's important to look is I think for WebEx is first the business strategy. I think if you're buying a stock, you're investing in a venture, you're investing in business plan in a partnership. You're also investing in the prospect of accumulation, right? The secret sauce where they can accumulate. So and you should look at, I think it's going to maybe come on the website, Bitcoin receivables instead of Bitcoin already purchased. Because it takes a little bit of time to turn computation power into Bitcoin. So let's say the company signs. I think the announcement was 30 million Hong Kong dollar, right? So roughly maybe $4 million, right? Let's say $4 million. And how many Bitcoin can $4 million purchase? $4 million purchase. And we got to look at the contract, how many coin actually will come from these $4 million of hash rate or computation power operation. Maybe it'd be more than 10%, 20%, I don't know, certain percentage or more than what 4 million would otherwise purchase on the market. And once that specific hash rate contract, I mean, there'll be multiple contracts, like each one of the contract is signed, there will be account receivable. And that receivable, I think, should show up on the website so investors, the community can see, okay, the company has entered into another business contract with, let's say, 10 Bitcoin receivable. And this one with 50 Bitcoin receivable. This one with 100 Bitcoin receivable. Here's an AI computation service provided. The counterparty has agreed to pay, in 20 Bitcoin, in 50 Bitcoin, right? So I think those are the things that are very important to be able to see, like maybe a bar, an aggregate bar, like aggregate receivable, 1,000 Bitcoin, Bitcoin received 100, and the rate of receiving those Bitcoin is X number of coin per day, right? That's interesting. And the company could say, hey, I've got a running business now, right? I put in more money, I get same amount of Bitcoin or more out. I'm also getting Bitcoin day after day. So it's almost like a dollar cost averaging. I don't have to think about trading. I don't think about when to buy the dip, when to buy the pop. I'm just accumulating Bitcoin the whole time, right?
Yeah, I
And
love
then the
that.
company just goes to the investors, say, hey, let's raise the capital and get more account receivables. Raise the capital, get more account receivables, increase the speed that is coming in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to add Bitcoin receivables onto the site and onto the balance sheet as you build more accumulation strategies and not just purchases. Yeah, there's going to be receivables in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin payables and Bitcoin, everything sort of Bitcoin's infiltrating into the balance sheet. So I think that's really exciting, and it's definitely tough probably for at least Michael Saylor, to determine, when should we hit buy. He just keeps buying. At least it seems like has been buying every Monday or just sort of whether the price is up or down. But whenever you see a dip, at least with retail investors, they're like, oh, I'm waiting for the dip to buy, when they should probably just be more thinking about just having a business, and then part of that just goes in, regardless of the price. We're accumulating Bitcoin for the long term.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about Bitcoin, the initial idea was Bitcoin being a form of payment, right? Electronic. Original white paper. Obviously, the speed of Bitcoin, how it's designed, would not work for retail payments. But who said it wouldn't work for B2B payments?
Yeah.
Right? We don't need that fast. With its large sum, millions of dollars, we can wait for 10, 20 minutes, not a problem.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
perfectly fine for, especially in the future, there's going to be more and more computation for everything, for AI, for Bitcoin, for everything. Everything's going to be powered by computation and the amount of computation you have. And therefore, and maybe computation can be securitized, right? Computation products, computation forward contracts, trading of computation contracts, right? Operating of computation, trading, distributing, etc., marketplace for computation products. And these things are very interesting. And these things, I think, should naturally be paid in Bitcoin, since Bitcoin is literally backed by computation power. That is the most pure form of computation, that the value in the computation.
Yeah. That's really cool, Bill. And, a lot of these digital asset treasury companies, they're, American listed, and then I've seen Metaplanet, for example, as Bitcoin in Japan, but with WebX, HK 8521, that's in Hong Kong. Is there an advantage to being in Hong Kong and being the first Bitcoin accumulation company? Do you see it as a good jurisdiction for future Bitcoin BACs and DATs?
I think each jurisdiction has its uniqueness, right? Due to its regulatory or economic, whatever situation. US is the most liberal and the most straightforward. I raise capital, I buy the coin, that's it. I can raise every day at market, I buy every day. Whereas in certain countries, it's not the case. Certain countries have capital controls, such as China, India. In Japan, they came up with some, option or different ways to be able to issue shares, not directly. Whereas in Hong Kong, you also have certain restrictions. You also have certain advantages and disadvantages. But out of all of that, I think, Hong Kong has probably the highest upside or the highest potential for a Bitcoin accumulation company or a digital treasury strategy company. Why? If we think about in the world, US is the largest economy, China is the second largest economy. But China's got twice or more than twice the US M2. That means the government has printed double the amount of money. And the Chinese saving rate is incredibly high, where the US saving rate is perhaps low or if not negative. And it means there is a huge amount of readily investable assets that are looking for pristine financial assets to invest in, but there aren't that many good financial assets to invest in. Look at Chinese A shares. It used to be historically Chinese housing, but the housing market is not currently doing very well. And I personally don't think it's going to do very well in the going into the future, because everybody already has 5 houses and now apartments in China, and they're not making nearly enough babies to absorb new houses. Population growth. So what else to invest in? So we bet, right? We believe Chinese wealth has the strongest need to get Bitcoin beta exposure, to get Bitcoin exposure. But how do they get a Bitcoin exposure? When this is already proven, we don't need to really actually think about it. China was the largest Bitcoin mining country and had the
Mm-hmm.
most amount of Bitcoin, even originated in China, right? But because of capital control of things, rightly so, the government, Chinese government had to stop Bitcoin inside China,
Mm-hmm.
right? For mining, for trading, and there's no way to get exposure to Bitcoin on any massive level that is legally
Mm-hmm.
compliant
Mm-hmm.
inside China. There's no RMB trading on Bitcoin. There's no Bitcoin mining that's legal. There's no Bitcoin digital strategy. There's no Bitcoin, how to say, ETFs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also, I think the Chinese government did a great favor to Bitcoin
Mm.
by banning it 7 times in China, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if the Chinese government, I think the Chinese leadership is incredibly visionary,
Mm-hmm.
and they are probably in their heart pro-Bitcoin.
Mm.
Because if they didn't ban Bitcoin 7 times, Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
would still be 70% concentrated, maybe 80% concentrated in China. That wouldn't be a decentralized asset, and US would not adopt it. The world would not adopt it. People, one of the key criticism before was that, oh, China controlled the 80% of the hash rate. What if they want to
Mm-hmm.
do a 51% attack? So I think the Chinese leadership understood this and said, oh, let's
Mm-hmm.
make this asset true to its nature, make it
Mm-hmm.
decentralized. Right? Yeah. But the exposure, the need for exposure of the Chinese people or Chinese wealth is still there. And where can you get it? There's one backdoor that the leadership has designed, right? Which is Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a backdoor. It's imagine China as this high pressured can or
Mm-hmm.
cooking pot or you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking chicken inside. There's a very little hole there, and all the pressure wants
Mm-hmm.
to come out. And there's this steam stream from the hole, right? If you put a coin, the coin will fly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
no, I've been there, and it's very exciting. And yeah, I'm excited to see uh, BACs like WebEx start in Hong Kong, and to see how the capital flow in from there. And yeah, I think that's a really long-term play by China, banning it 7 times and ensuring the decentralization as it continues to grow into the mainstream. And now there's a huge accumulation in the U.S., but we're still so early. There's in the 15 years of Bitcoin, we still have over 100 years until the mining rewards even stop, and then from then on there'll be hundreds of more years. So WebEx is one of the early accumulators of Bitcoin, and yeah, I really love that backdoor to see the capital flow in there. So I'm rooting for you guys. What is the best way, Bill, to follow along with WebEx, how you guys are different, and follow along with further Bitcoin accumulation, and see those Bitcoin receivables as they come in?
yeah, I what I learned is that a new website is coming up very soon. By the domain name, I think it's WebX 8521.com. Uh, So I think one best way is to follow that, as well as to follow Twitter. I think that and Twitter, and I think the marketing team is doing a great job preparing those information to be live, as well as public disclosures by the company,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our
Mm-hmm.
opinions on the public disclosures. The public disclosures have always to be accurate and correct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the strategy and intent can be further explained and analyzed and shared by the community. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I forgot to mention, I mean, not forgot, I think I want to share my thoughts on a little bit overall thoughts on this at kind of at the end, is that like any business, from a startup to NVIDIA to any business, listed, not listed, small or big, the most important part is to have a business plan, is to have a vision where you are, where you want to be, what are you building, right? Even NVIDIA is talking about it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger the company, the stronger they're conveying this vision. And that is the most important thing. And if you don't have a reason to be or a real a vision where you want to be, then you're just a trade. Maybe you go up today, you go down tomorrow, and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it's very important to set expectations and milestones and the North Star. So what would be the North Star for WebEx? Right? I think the first step is to become the largest Bitcoin holder on the balance sheet in Hong Kong, which is not that difficult. The largest one holds 3,000 to 4,000 bitcoins. Right? In the 3,000 of bitcoins, if you hold anything more than 4,000, you're the largest. But I think the real North Star is, I think, potentially to be accepted to the Hong Kong Connect program or the southbound program, so that mainland stock traders can trade the stock directly with RMB, and their proceeds would return in RMB. So that is also okay with capital control because none of the capital is leaving China, yet you get legal exposure to Bitcoin beta. Right? And there are, I think, 300 million stock traders in China, almost the population of the United States. Everybody is trading stock in China. And if you gave them a Bitcoin proxy, imagine the volume and potential mNAV, so to speak, that could be. Right? You have the floodgate that's opening. But I don't think any company would qualify for Hong Kong Connect if they didn't have a real business. The reason why we think that this company has a chance, as a shot, I'm not saying guarantee, as a shot, is because there was historically a company that had Bitcoin on balance sheet and also on Hong Kong Connect. It was Meitu. Right? Meitu was a cell phone manufacturer. They purchased Bitcoin. They were on Hong Kong Connect. It was fine. But they had a real business. They were making cell phones. But a computation business, computation as main business for either hash rate, AI, cloud services, is a real business. And it's a business that the government is promoting right now.
Well, it's very exciting, Bill. I really appreciate your insights into Bitcoin accumulation companies and actually, having operations outside of just raise money, buy Bitcoin, because there's more to that in generating value for the shareholders, especially if you're able to do it to get Bitcoin at a discount. The more the better. The better the discount, the bigger the discount, the better. I'm looking forward to following along with this. I'll leave the link to the new website when it comes out, in the socials and anything else in the show notes below. I'm wishing you and WebEx all the best moving forward, and would love to follow up in the near future.
Thank you.